What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to go over 5 characters I would love to see in Crash Team Rumble. So there's going to be some pretty different ones here, and to be honest with you, I'm not even sure if you could make them work. I try to pick a big range, and what we'll do is we'll talk about why I want them, but we'll also talk about maybe how you could do it, at least putting them in a class. And so let's start with the number one character, who's not from Crash Bandicoot, but needs to be in this game, and I do think he will, is Spyro. I do believe Spyro is coming. I think Spyro will come in Season 2. I fully believe that in my heart and in my soul. Now, I personally think I'm going to put Spyro as a scorer, and it's because of what we know about Engine, Ripperoo, and then also the other characters that I've picked for this list. So I'm trying to balance it out a little bit, right? I could have put Spyro somewhere else. I think Spyro works as an all-around character, okay? You could see him flying, so a little cat bat going on there. You could easily figure out his basic abilities. Maybe the fire would be a special thing, or maybe that would just be a basic ability. It would work so well. It's going to work because this is going to be one that's in this game. If we're going to put it actually in terms of like what I do believe we're going to actually get, Spyro is 100% number one. Number two, I actually do believe will be Tiny Tiger. He's one of my favorite characters in all of Crash. I think really Dingodile is an old-time favorite of mine. Engine has always been a personal fave, and then Tiny Tiger, I would say as well. A lot of characters that have some sort of influence in Crash Bash. Okay, if they were in Crash Bash, chances are I kind of like them. But no, I think he makes a lot of sense. Now, I feel like Blocker makes the most sense, right? Big, strong, a lot of like heavier attacks. The issue would probably be I have another character that I also think I'd put as a blocker. So, you're going to probably have at least 2 blockers from this list. That's okay. You may have some imbalance there. In fact, if you think about it, they're starting with 8 characters and you only have 3, 3, and 2, right? So boosters are already behind. So yeah, you're going to even it out eventually, but then because you do 2 for every season, there's always going to be an odd number. There's always going to be more of something than there is for something else. So I think Tiny Tiger makes the most sense. I think kind of like iconic. I mean, you can think of a lot of other big name Crash villains or Crash characters like the Ripperoos and Engines of the world. I'd put Tiny like right in that group with the Dingodiles and all of them, and everybody else is in the game. So I do think he would be almost a shoo-in as well. Not as sold as Spyro. I think Spyro is 100% going to be in this game. Tiny, I would say, is just right underneath him. Let's do the other blocker, and I will say Crunch Bandicoot. I don't know if it's a personal fave, but he stands out, when I think about this character, kind of a legend, and I could see this being obviously a blocker as well. Very big, very strong, kind of the antithesis of Crash Bandicoot, right? Originally created to take Crash out, if I do believe my history is correct there. So I think he makes a lot of sense. I think this is just something a little bit different. You have Crash and you have Coco, and why not throw in the third one right there in Crunch? Again, he would probably be a little similar to Crash and then just very, very strong. I can't imagine, and again, that's where I kind of trip myself up a little bit. When I think of Crunch, when I think of Tiny, you can't put them anywhere else but blockers, right? You can't even make that argument. So I do think blocker makes the most sense. Let's do not a blocker, but let's do one that I'll be flat out honest with you. I have no idea how you would do it. Nitrous Oxide. Okay, I want to throw this guy in because I do think when you think of legendary Crash characters, you can think of other ones, I'm sure, but I think of him. And the issue is kind of limited because obviously like racing, racing is like his thing. He's always in a car. So how would he act outside of a car? Could he be in a car? Now, if he's in a car and that's like his primary thing, what would you even do there? You would think, obviously it would be score or booster, right? And you could maybe do booster because maybe he could lay traps, which would maybe be more like a Coco-like thing, right? Like some sort of, Coco has the wall, maybe he lays some sort of trap while he's driving, but it would be like the slowest driving you've ever seen in your life, and it would need to jump. Now, that's not uncommon because cars and like team racing and all that stuff, you can perform some kind of acrobatic things, right? Look, this is probably the most far-fetched. You would have to debate whether to take him out of the car or not, but I think this would be kind of wild and kind of cool, and I feel like this would get Crash fans excited. And to be honest with you, and we've talked about this before, with this game, and I just don't know the player base. I don't feel the player base is very high with this game. You got to keep people into it. You got to give us some wild things that are going to make us excited, at least the people that you have. And I think he would do something like that. And the final character I'm going to say is Polar. I think this is kind of a safe bet as well. I think, you think of Spyro. Okay, that makes sense. You think of Score. You think of Tiny, and that would be like a blocker. I would say if you were to pick three that seem kind of realistic, Tiny's got that appeal. Spyro's obviously got that appeal. And Polar has been in multiple iterations of Crash, used for different purposes. Probably a booster, right? Speed, more helping than pretty much anything else. You could probably make Polar a scorer as well, but I do think booster makes the most sense. And in that way, you've just done all three. And then you have the other two, which are kind of repeats, right? I think this makes a lot of sense. I would say Polar seems kind of likely. You can get crazier than Polar, and that's where the other characters come in, but I think a nice safe bet that fills a void, right, gives you another character in a specific class in this game. I think Polar makes the most sense. So there you go. There's my 5. There are many Crash characters to pick from, so if you have any, let me know in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.